Hello everyone, and welcome to the first show of the semester for Halftime on the Hudson. I'm Mike Conway alongside Corey Grip. Let's start with some hot takes. From teams led by developed seniors to lineups featuring flashy and athletic freshmen, college basketball is as wide open as ever before. There's simply no clear-cut team, and realistically, any team in the top 25 has a chance to go on a national championship run. I believe that March Madness is going to live up to the hype this year. As we sit here today on February 8th, there have already been so many upsets. We have a handful of mid-major schools in the top 25 right now, including St. Mary's sitting at 11, Gonzaga riding at 12, Rhode Island at 18, and Nevada set at 23. Additionally, there are few teams in the top 25 who haven't always been labeled as basketball schools. Both Auburn and Texas Tech sit in the top 10. At this point in the season, the upperclassmen-led teams have been performing really well, including number 1 Villanova, 2 Virginia, 3 Purdue, number 6 Cincinnati, and 18 West Virginia. Nobody would be surprised to see any of these teams in San Antonio at the Final Four this year. Number 9 Duke starts 4 freshmen, and possibly the player of the year in Marvin Bagley III. Number 4 Michigan State, led by sophomore Miles Briggs and freshman Jaren Jackson Jr., Number 13, Arizona, led by freshman center DeAndre Ayton. And, of course, number 17, Oklahoma, led by freshman sensation Trae Young. College basketball is as balanced this year as we've ever seen before. Trust me, when the NCAA tournament begins, you will be glued to your television for days.
What's wrong with the Cleveland Cavaliers? Well, besides the fact that they play and live in the city of Cleveland, pretty much everything. From their team defense and the constant friction in the locker room, the Cavs are looking worse and worse by the day. It all started in the offseason when the Cavs traded point guard Kyrie Irving to my Boston Celtics for Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Ante Zizic, and a first-round pick. IT and Jay Crowder have been part of the locker room problems in Cleveland, but they're not the only ones responsible. After starting center Kevin Love left the Oklahoma City Thunder game on January 20th due to an illness, the distractions started to come out. Several Cavalier players, including Thomas, were openly frustrated with Love for leaving the team during a closed-door team meeting. Turns out that meeting was not as private as originally thought, as Crowder, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Thomas were some of the most active voices in the room. LeBron James not allowing commitment for future Cavs teams in the future has limited the moves owner Dan Gilbert can make. There have also been questions about the Cavaliers quitting on head coach Ty Lue, as the effort has been lacking. The Cavs' record since the New Year's is 6-10, and it does not look like the situation is getting any better. However, good news may be on the way for Cleveland. On the last day of the NBA trade deadline, the Cavs subtracted IT, Channing Frye, Wade, Crowder, Derrick Rose, and Amon Shumpert, while adding Larry Nance Jr., Jordan Clarkson, Rodney Hood, and George Hill in separate deals. This team may make the playoffs, but with all the distractions and friction in the locker room, I can't see this team making it to the second round, much less the NBA Finals, especially with teams such as the Celtics, Raptors, Wizards, and Bucks playing more consistent basketball.
Now that the Eagles are Super Bowl 52 champions, it's time to start thinking ahead for next season. Everybody knows that the quarterback is and always will be the most important position in football. Here are my predictions of where the top quarterbacks in the draft will end up. First up, the Minnesota Vikings or the New York Jets do not draft a quarterback because the Vikings will retain Case Keenum at the position while the Jets will open up the checkbook to sign Kirk Cousins. Additionally, Josh Rosen will be the first quarterback off the board and take his talents to the New York Giants at number 2 alongside Odell Beckham Jr. At the number 4 position, the Browns will select Sam Darnold. Will this finally be the guy to save the Cleveland Browns? The very next pick I see, the Denver Broncos selecting Baker Mayfield from Oklahoma. There have been some rumblings throughout the NFL that the Broncos really like the former Sooner. Could he be the guy to get the Broncos back to being contenders? Up next, the Buffalo Bills will trade up to grab Josh Allen, considering they have 2 first-round picks to play with. This very well could be the end of the Tyrod Taylor era in Western New York. Lastly, I see the Arizona Cardinals selecting Lamar Jackson from Louisville. They may trade down to make this happen. Personally, I don't believe he's ready to play right now, but he does have a lot of upside potential to be a quarterback. It's definitely going to be fun to see how this plays out.
The Empire Strikes Back is currently being played in theaters in the Bronx, New York, starting in March 2018. With the addition of slugger outfielder Giancarlo Stanton alongside Aaron Judge, the Bronx Bombers now have the reigning AL and NL home run leaders. Judge had a great rookie year, hitting .284 with 52 home runs, 114 ribbies, and 128 runs scored. He did all this while becoming a celebrity in New York, which is extremely tough, but also added the famous Judge's Chambers in the stands of right field, which excites all Yankee fans. I can personally attest to that. The Yankees also unloaded inconsistent third baseman Chase Headley back to the San Diego Padres, as well as pitcher Brian Mitchell for outfielder Jabari Blash. This creates an opening for a younger player to take over the hot corner like Miguel Adunar. They also re-signed steady veteran pitcher CC Sabathia to a one-year deal. He pitched well last year, especially against the Cleveland Indians in Game 5 of the ALDS. New York also hired a new manager who is more of a player's manager, but also has no managerial experience in Aaron Boone. This team will certainly help Boone in his first year as the Yankees manager, as the Yankees had the most home runs in the league last year, in addition to adding Stanton. With acquiring Stanton and the possibility of playing both Andujar and top prospect Gleyber Torres in the infield, New York Yankees by far had the best offseason. The moves they made and another year of improvement from their already young stars make them look like one of the World Series favorites and therefore had the best offseason.
When we return, Corey and I will give you our thoughts on the Eagles' Super Bowl 52 win over the Patriots.
Unless you lived under a rock, you know that the New England Patriots fell to the Philadelphia Eagles in Super Bowl 52 by a 41-33 margin. Philly finally took home their first Lombardi trophy while Eagle fans burned down half the city. So, Mike, what are your impressions of the game?
I thought it was a good game. I'm a big, high-powered offense guy, so I was a big fan of seeing all the touchdowns, the big 41-33 score. It was great. For me personally, being in Philadelphia was great. I got that opportunity, so it was great to be able to watch that game with Eagles fans and celebrate with them afterwards.
You know, I really thought that, I agree, very, very highly scoring game. I didn't really expect it. I thought both defenses would play a little bit better than that.
Definitely.
I wasn't surprised that Nick Foles played well, because we all knew he had to play well for them to win this game. I was really surprised that Brady went off and they didn't win. That was the biggest thing for me. Threw for over 500 yards, couldn't win. Surprised.
I'm surprised he didn't win the game in the last minute.
Very surprised.
My thing is, if you're playing a game against Brady, you have to have the ball in your hand at the last second. If you give him any more than 10, 20 seconds, and he's got the ball and an opportunity to win, it's going to be game over. But, I mean, you know, defense wins championships, and that crucial turnover and then that incomplete play to end it really sealed the deal for them.
I think we can agree. Like, I'm not a huge Patriots fan. I hate them. But, you know, we've already like grown accustomed to, like, you know, if you're trailing with 2 minutes, and you have Brady, you almost expect them to come back and win, which is why I was so surprised that the Eagles were able to make a big defensive play when they did. It was their first sack of the game, and man, oh man, was it a good sack.
It counts, absolutely. You mentioned that sack. Is that your best play of the game?
Absolutely not. I'm going to say this is a little unconventional for me, but I'm going to say my biggest play of the game was the Nelson Aguilar third down conversion at the beginning of the third quarter. It was right after, you know, everyone makes a big deal about the Patriots right in their second half adjustments. The Patriots literally just marched right down the field, and the Eagles had a 3rd and 7, and they hit Aguilar for a 30-yard slant route. It was a beautiful executed play.
Big change of momentum.
And it was a big play. You know, because had they went 3 and out, who knows what would have happened after that. So, and they went on to score in that drive. So that was a big play that really set a statement and a stand in the second half that they were going to, you know, keep it high scoring and keep the Patriots at bay.
There were definitely some big changes in momentum throughout the game. One, for me personally, that I wanted to dub my favorite play of the game was the Foles touchdown reception.
Oh, it was a great play.
I think just the fact that going with a trick play there, especially, which made it way sweeter, was that the Patriots tried to do that play before. Tom Brady drops the ball. The Eagles are on the goal line. You know, are they going to run it? Are they going to do a pass? That's the whole thing with the Patriots being on the field too. And for them to do that play and for it to work in that environment, I was like, wow.
And you know, it's funny. I didn't know this, but the Patriots ran that exact same play with Brady 2 years ago when they played the Eagles in the regular season, and it worked.
Interesting.
So they pulled it out again out of their bag of tricks, and it just didn't work. It was a great throw. You can't blame, who was it, Amendola for making that throw? That was all on Brady.
Yeah,
hit him in the hands.
Exactly, absolutely. Moving on to underrated and overrated player of the game. What would you say for that?
I would definitely say underrated for me was Danny Amendola. I mean, he really went off in this game, and he really kept them in the game. Obviously, we expected Gronk to have a great game, but no one was really talking about Amendola. I mean, he had a great AFC Championship performance. He went out there, and he's really become the go-to guy after Julian Edelman tore his ACL, so he could be their go-to guy next year out of the slot.
Absolutely. For me, it was Rex Burkhead, the running back for the Patriots. I feel like he had a big standout game, and not a name I was too familiar with. So to see him do what he did and get some recognition on the national stage was big. Speaking of Patriots players, Malcolm Butler was surprisingly absent from the field defensively, except for special teams, and that's been a big point of controversy surrounding the Patriots right now, is whether he should have played or not, and if he would have made a difference in that game.
I definitely think he would have made a huge difference in the game. He's he's a solid Pro Bowl caliber corner, and he just wasn't able to stay disciplined. I completely agree with the benching. The Patriots wish he was out there, but if you can't focus in on the Super Bowl, literally the night before, he's breaking curfew. I mean, reports say he was breaking curfew, whatever. But if you can't buy in the night before Super Bowl, you don't deserve to play.
Absolutely.
So the reports came out after the game. Gronk said he'd think about his future, which means retirement. So do you think he's going to retire?
I don't think so, no. I feel like he's such a team guy, and he's such a big part of that offense that he's going to die in a Patriots uniform.
Common sense would say he's not going to retire, but let me tell you, we've seen lots of pro football players retire at a younger age over the last 5-6 years with all the CTE, concussion stuff coming out.
Health is a huge part of that.
Not to mention the fact that Gronk has had 3 or 4 surgeries the last few years. His body's been beat up. So it wouldn't surprise me if he retired, but do I expect him to retire? Possibly. Not sure.
Yeah.
He'll probably think about it for a couple months.
I feel like he's got that heart, though. He's just got that attitude where he just wants to play football. He just wants to hit someone hard.
Yeah.
He just wants to get those touchdown passes.
But he's a partier. So for me, Gronk retiring, would not surprise me because he's got a great social life. He could be an actor. He's got endorsements. I mean, he's fine. He doesn't need to play football.
He's going to be okay 10 years down the road?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. I think if he retired right now, he'd be completely fine.
All right. So retiring, starting, Nick, that brings us to Nick Foles. Is he going to be the starting quarterback for the Eagles next year? Or maybe are we going to see him at the helm for another team?
It's such an insult to Carson Wentz. I mean, we keep forgetting about Wentz. And what Nick Foles did was extraordinary. It was fantastic. But guess what? He did beat Brady. I'll give him that. And
back to reality, though.
Now it's it's just he's not going to be the quarterback. And his stock is never going to be as high as it is right now. So trade him, get something in return. Wentz got them to that number 1 seed. If it wasn't for him, if Nick Foles started the whole season, they would have been a playoff team, but not the 1 seed.
I think he could definitely do something like Garoppolo, who's now got the highest contracted NFL history, I think. Go to a team that's developing. They need some wins. They need some good leadership. I think he'd be a perfect candidate for that.
He's a good starting quarterback in the NFL, so he'll definitely get some value and some attention from teams that need a quarterback. But again, they got to take advantage of his ceiling right now and trade him for some draft picks.
Gotcha. So moving on from the game, the Super Bowl is not only about the football, but of course the commercials. So let's start there and go with your favorite commercial from the Super Bowl. There were a lot of good ones.
I completely disagree. All the commercials were terrible. There was really only a couple good ones. The one that stood out for me was the Eli Odell commercial. That was great.
That did.
And my friend pointed out to me. My friend pointed out to me that when Eli is in a Super Bowl, Brady's 0-3. 0-2 on the field, and then, the commercials. So Eli's probably sitting back at home laughing, just being like, I can't believe Brady can't beat me. So that was a great commercial. I mean, not really anything else impressed me. Well, what do you think?
I disagree. I feel like there were some good ones there. You had Danny DeVito, who was an M&M. I thought that was classic. Kia did a great commercial where Steven Tyler gets in a car on the track and goes backwards so fast that it goes back in time and emerges from the car a younger, more attractive one. Of course, Tide stole the show with Hopper from Stranger Things. I can't believe they didn't do anything about people eating Tide Pods. I was waiting for that. But the whole "no, it's a Tide" commercial was pretty big for a company that just sells detergent, for clothes. So.
Well, it's safe to say that Super Bowl 52 was memorable on and off the field.
Sure.
When we return, John Rohr will give us his predictions for Thursday's NBA trade deadline, and Mike and I will provide you with our games of the week. Stay tuned.
Hey everyone, I'm John Rohr. Corey provided you with his take on the Cavs earlier. However, I'm going to provide you with an in-depth look at their trade deadline deals. After the Cavs blew a 21-point lead in an 18-point defeat to the Magic on Tuesday, the fate of Isaiah Thomas was pretty much set in stone. The IT and LeBron experiment lasted just 15 games in the land, and fortunately for Chris Humphries, he no longer has the shortest marriage in NBA history. A wild deadline day in the NBA saw plenty of fireworks, but rest assured, J.R. Smith isn't going anywhere. And while they say Rome wasn't built in a day, the Cavs roster was completely rebuilt in about 90 minutes this afternoon. It all kicked off when the 5'9" Thomas was traded away from the second title contender in just the last 6 months. This time, he and teammate Channing Frye will team up alongside Lonzo Ball in Los Angeles in exchange for Larry Nance Jr. and Jordan Clarkson. The Lakers also acquired Cleveland's 2018 first-round pick and managed to clear a ton of cap space ahead of this summer's free agency period. This trade came less than 24 hours after Thomas, who currently has the worst defensive rating in the last 25 years, said he was tired of being traded. The Cavs also sent Derrick Rose and his bad knees, along with Jay Crowder, to Utah as part of a three-team deal that will see the Cavs get George Hill, Rodney Hood, and Sacramento end up with Iman Shumpert and a 2020 second-round pick. Finally, the peanut butter and jelly combination of Dwayne Wade and LeBron James is no more. Wade will be taking his talents back to South Beach in exchange for a heavily protected second-round pick. Overall, the Cavs got quite a bit younger and more athletic and managed to hang on to that all-important Brooklyn Nets pick. Elsewhere around the league, DeAndre Jordan, Kemba Walker, and Tyreek Evans all ended up staying put. That's all from me. Now back to Corey and Mike.
And welcome back to Halftime on the Hudson. I'm Mike Conway. He's Corey Grip. And now we're going to get into our games of the week. On Sunday, the Cleveland Cavaliers battled the Boston Celtics at the TD Garden. The Cavs have been struggling leading up to the big game, having lost 14 of their last 21. However, most believe that this is still expected to be the matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals. This will also be the first game that the Cavs' new revamped roster will be taking on the Boston Celtics. Also, the day where Paul Pierce will retire his jersey as 34 finds itself in the rafters of the TD Garden. Corey, let's talk a little bit about this matchup.
I think it's a pretty obvious answer. Cleveland Cavaliers need to create some new chemistry with all these new players. Celtics are at home. It's going to be an emotional night with Paul Pierce's jersey being up in the rafters. Celtics, best coach in the NBA, very good young roster. Kyrie is going to be inspired again. Celtics win.
Absolutely. One thing I didn't like, though, is that it was supposed to be the game that Isaiah Thomas was supposed to make his return to Boston, but now he finds himself in L.A. as a part of the Lakers. So, unfortunately, we won't be able to see, though, what I would assume would have been a super warm reception. Boston was a big fan of IT when he was there.
A very big fan for IT. On Thursday night, the battle on Tobacco Road will take place as my number 9 Duke Blue Devils play at in-state and hated rival number 21 North Carolina. Duke is coming off an embarrassing road loss to St. John's, who have not won a conference game in the Big East. UNC hasn't been very consistent either, with losses, with 3 of their last 4 games ending in losses and 5 losses total in conference play. This is no doubt a heated rivalry, but this matchup has produced incredible moments for the last 30 years. It'll be a competitive game, but Duke's talent will prevail in the end, despite being on the road. I think Duke has been practicing really hard this week after Coach K called their loss to St. John's disgusting, and that the intensity will carry into the game. Duke's Marvin Bagley will have a field day on the paint and will help shut down Luke May of North Carolina. Duke will play a better defensive game and will take away the paint from North Carolina, while guards Grayson Allen and Trayvon Duval will find their stroke again offensively. So, Mike, who do you got in this game?
I don't know, man. Good and evil, I think, personally. I think if you're a well-minded person, you have to root for UNC. You can't root for Duke, basically, unless you're the bad guy.
Here's what all I got to say is you're either with them or you're against them. I'm riding with Duke all the way. It's just too much talent. It's obviously a rivalry game, so it's going to be very competitive and close. But, of course, I got to ride with the Devils.
One thing I like about this matchup is going into this, every time they've met, it's been a perfect matchup of 50 wins for each team. So I think this will be an interesting game just because it breaks that 100-game tie.
And the guards need to step up for Duke. Grayson Allen needs to play better. He's a senior leader on this team. He needs to set the example and set the tone early.
Absolutely. Well, that's all we have this week. He's Corey Grip. I'm Mike Conway. We'll see you next time.